Chris Rimple is a 40-year veteran of the tech industry and joined Toastmasters just 8 months ago. And he's already doing classes. Isn't that amazing? Awesome, Chris. Thank you. He helped his home club, the Seattle Sunrise Toastmasters, to improve their hybrid meeting setup, then documented those improvements for others. He completed in the International Speech Contest, finishing second in District 2 just a few weeks ago at the conference. Congratulations, Chris. And also recently gave a talk for Ignite Seattle called How Skydiving Cured My Fear of Heights that you can find on YouTube. Please welcome Chris Rimple, hosting great hybrid meetings. Chris Rimple, the stage is yours.
Thanks very much, Josh. I appreciate it. And hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. Glad to try to help you with this important topic. Let me clarify. Josh said 40-year-old career in tech, but actually it's a 40-year career in tech. I'm certainly older than 40, for those of you who might have wondered looking at the video. This is going to be an interactive session for the most part, so please feel free to turn on your video if you're comfortable. I'll be asking a bunch of questions for which you'll have opportunities to provide answers. Please use the raise hand feature of Zoom so that Josh can see that your hand is raised and I can see that your hand is raised as well. And I look forward to your questions throughout. Feel free to interrupt me at any point if you have a question that you don't feel I'm addressing in that moment. There will also be a Q&A portion at the end. So let's dive in. So what do we mean when we say great? Well, let's answer that question first. So what is great about in-person meetings? And this is a question for all of you. What do you love about in-person meetings? What makes them great? Let's see some hands. Josh, go ahead.
Organized meetings are great sometimes.
Organized meetings are great. Absolutely. Okay, what else makes in-person meetings great? Yes, Bob.
Interaction and feedback between speaker and audience.
Okay, interaction. Absolutely. What else? Kenneth.
The discussions before and after the meeting, the interactions with other members.
Yes.
Oftentimes difference about roles and things that are coming up.
So the opportunity to interact with other people before and after the meeting, you're not limited to just that time when you might be virtual. I thought I saw another hand as well, but it's gone away. Well, let me share with you a few things that I think make them great. So first of all, we're in a controlled physical environment. Temperature, noise, interruptions, distractions, generally, maybe not at every club meeting, but generally are controlled. We're not being interrupted by our children or our pets. We don't have random people coming to the door to make a delivery and things like that. So our attention can be focused on the meeting itself and the speakers at that meeting. Access. It's easy in person to have quiet side conversations with other members that are present. It's easy to reach over and hand someone a note. It's easy to pass something to another member, even while someone is speaking, without interrupting that speaker. That can be quite a bit more difficult when you're online. Visually, field of view. For the most part, when we're in person, we have a single focal point, that is the lectern or the place where the speaker is standing. But we also have easy eye contact with other attendees, and that helps to provide a stronger human connection to the other folks that are in the room. Auditory, or what we hear with our ears, obviously ease of hearing. Provided the speaker is loud enough or is using a microphone or other amplification, there's generally sufficient volume, words are clear, we can hear each other, be understood, and understand others. That's not always true when we're working in a hybrid environment or a pure virtual environment. And then, of course, the emotional connection. Someone touched on this, not just the opportunity to speak with others before and after a meeting, but as well, just that physical presence, that eye contact, that looking across the table at someone else provides that human connection that we may not be able to get when we're looking at a flat screen in front of us. Now, what's difficult about hybrid meetings? And it's not just the opposite of everything I listed. So let's have some thoughts. What frustrates you about hybrid meetings, especially as the hybrid participant?
I'm sorry, I can't figure out how to raise my hand. I'm
That's
so
okay.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm from Oklahoma, and so I'm always online. I can't be in Washington. And sometimes I just can't hear all those interactions between people. And if the microphone isn't exactly right, like I can really struggle to hear a whole speech. That's like my main issue.
Absolutely. Okay. Other thoughts on things that make the hybrid experience less optimal? Linda.
The challenge from the setup side of it, getting a good visual and audio for those who are hybrid or not in the meeting, and also to have it be meaningful for everybody, because if you're speaking to both the camera and to the room, how does one split their time between the two? Where do you make eye contact? All of those things.
Absolutely. All right. Lori.
Getting people to participate, to get involved with the meeting.
Sure.
It's easier to
Absolutely.
just sit back and listen.
And I assume you're referring predominantly to the people who are remote, the ones that have joined virtually.
Yes.
Yeah, we all, COVID was both good and bad for many reasons, but if there's one thing that it taught us, it's that we can sit around in our underwear and still get work done. And so now lots of us do that even during our Toastmasters meetings. All right. Any other hands? Thought I saw one, but it's missing now. Oh, there we go. Michelle?
Yeah, my experience has been basically being treated as second class, being online, and that those who are live in the meeting feel like that's the more important way of getting the experience, and so they just ignore the people who are online.
For sure. Absolutely. Jeff?
Mind. But I was going to say we try not to sit around in our underwear at our in-person Toastmasters meetings. So
You never know. There could be a club that's an underwear-based club. I haven't heard of it,
yeah,
but it might exist.
the clothing optional club, yes.
Right. Right. Exactly. All right. Well, thank you for all of those ideas. Here's a few of mine as well. So the physical, it's an uncontrolled environment. If you're at home, if you're joining remotely, there could be temperature, noise, or other interruption and distraction issues that could impact you. Obviously, access. It's difficult to impossible to have side conversations between an online attendee and an in-person attendee. You're generally limited to the Zoom chat unless you have direct text messaging or another means to reach a particular member. And there's no guarantee that they're paying attention. Often hybrid setups are such that the people physically present in the room are not watching the Zoom chat themselves, so they may not even know that you're trying to reach out to them. Field of view, this was touched on by one person, the ability when using your virtual view to see the entire room, to see the speaker as well as the other people around the room, and to have a view of all of that. Of course, what we hear, ease of hearing, difficulty of hearing, insufficient volume, clarity, often hybrid setups might use a single microphone that tends to be at the lectern, which means that when another person speaks from somewhere else in the room or from their table, you may not pick it up. And then, of course, the emotional aspects. It's hard for those of us who are remote to perhaps feel connected to the other attendees, both the online attendees as well as the people that are in the room. If you're always remote, maybe you get used to that, but it still doesn't have that same impact that you might feel with an in-person meeting. So, what's the answer to what does great mean? Well, there's two answers. For in-person, it means little or no reduction in the experience that you would expect. And for online, it means an experience as close as possible to the in-person experience. So let's talk about what that means. First, looking at meeting spaces. What is challenging with this layout? And many of the pictures that you're going to see in this deck were taken directly from the Toastmasters website. So what's challenging with this layout? Any ideas? Many of us have participated.
Sorry. You're just seeing the backs of people's heads.
Yes, you're seeing the backs of people's heads. That's true. Linda, did you have more?
Yes, the field of vision for both the speaker and the online audience
Right. Absolutely.
or participants.
Yep. So let's dive into this. So seating in rows in general is going to prevent the attendees from making eye contact with each other. And it makes those side conversations difficult. If I'm at one end of a long table or a row of chairs and somebody I want to talk to is at the other end of a row of chairs, I got to get up, I got to go around all the chairs, the tables, whatever, and speak to them, hand them a note or pass it down, things like that. As well, for virtual purposes, this is a non-optimal setup, and we'll talk about why that is a little bit later. It's great for the speaker. You've got straight on ahead view of every person in the room. You can gauge reactions while you're speaking and so on. But it's difficult for others that are participating. Now, what's challenging with this layout? Any ideas?
I would say the speaker can't see the virtual people.
Correct. That is exactly right. I'm sorry, I don't know who just shared that, but that is the fundamental problem here, that the position of the lectern and the speaker does not have a view of the online attendees. So the online, they can't see the reaction to the attendees, they can't see if hands are raised, they can't see how people are responding to their speech and so on. And to a great degree, the speaker is only able to connect, if you will, with the in-person attendees that they're facing. What's challenging with this layout?
Where's the speaker space?
Where is the speaker is a great question. I don't know the answer to that one because, again, I took this directly from the Toastmasters website. Maybe only the online people get to speak. I'm not quite sure. Kent.
It shows the people offline, but if it's a hybrid meeting, you can't see the audience, the lectern, the rest of the crowd.
Right. Yeah, the lectern's missing entirely from this photo. I'm not quite sure why they use it, but there's something else here that I'm getting at. I want to see if anybody catches it. I saw a couple other hands and they've come down, so maybe nobody is identifying this one. So I will go ahead and share it with you. What's wrong with this layout is the in-person attendees all have their laptops open, possibly connected to the Zoom web conference, which creates multiple issues. So first of all, you can have microphone conflicts and echo if everybody has their microphones enabled. There could be speaker conflicts and echo if their speakers are enabled, if they haven't muted their own speakers. The potential for the in-person attendees to appear on screen if they have their cameras turned on. This is all just Zoom related problems if they've got Zoom running on their laptop. But also, while it does allow the in-person attendees to participate in side conversations via Zoom chat or other means with those online, the laptops themselves also serve as a distraction. We've noted there's no lectern present, but even if someone online were speaking in this image, we'd want our attention as audience members on them and not necessarily on our laptops. But there's going to be a natural tendency to look down at the laptop if it has joined the Zoom conference. Now, this is a real club meeting. They shared these online. I won't identify the club. I don't actually even remember who the club is, but it's an interesting example of a layout. And what do we see that's challenging with this layout? Just looking at this picture. Any ideas?
Not sure where the speaker is going to be. Because if they're sitting all around a table and maybe the speaker's like back here, sorry, you can't like
see.
On the other side of the table facing the TV, then the other people around, it would be kind of hard to make eye contact unless you were like way back, maybe.
Yes, absolutely. And Susan?
To me, it's confusing. There is no real center area to focus. And you could get really distracted really easy by talking and that kind of thing.
For sure. Okay. Josh.
I'm noticing in the screen of the viewers, it's not looking at anyone for well, it's one thing. It's looking at looks like the camera. The people can't see each other, and so not
Yes.
sure what's happening there.
Josh has noticed something that I'm going to cover next. But first, let me talk about what we see in this picture. There's a couple things, but the fundamental flaw, if nothing else, is one that we identified in a prior image, which is we see chairs here facing us, facing the person who shot this photo. We don't see a lectern anywhere in view, so we assume it has to be where we are or maybe behind us. But if those chairs are facing us and facing the speaker and the lectern, it means they're not facing this screen on the wall. So again, your in-person attendees are not able to see your virtual attendees because they're facing the opposite direction to look at the speaker. And as Josh pointed out, and let's get into this a little deeper, if we magnify the actual screen on the wall, the monitor, what do we see? This is what the other side of the room looks like. Now, what can we determine from that? Well, the tables are laid out in a circle with the lectern at one point in the circle. And what do we see on the right side of this picture? We see tables facing the center of the circle, chairs facing the center of the circle, not facing the lectern. So if anybody sits close to the lectern, they have to twist their body easily 90 degrees or farther to actually observe the speaker, right? Also, they're using a giant tripod on which their web camera is mounted. We see this in the image on the left. And that tripod is in the center of the circle, which means anyone sitting toward the back of the circle away from the lectern has to look through the tripod to see the speaker. So they probably think they're doing a great job of creating a hybrid environment, but they're both damaging the in-person environment while at the same time not creating a particularly great environment for their hybrid or virtual participants as well. All right, so let's talk about room layout considerations. You want all of your attendees, and this is in person and online, to have a clear view of the lectern and the speaker, to have a clear view of other attendees, clear view of the word of the day. So if you're printing it on a piece of paper and you're putting it in front of the lectern, and that lectern is a long distance from your camera, your virtual attendees probably can't see it. They need to have a clear indication of timers, colors, and the meeting agenda, whether you've distributed it in advance or you're showing it. If you're handing out printed copies to the in-person attendees, what are you doing for your hybrid attendees? The online attendees also need the full room view. Why? Because they're not present. They don't have the ability to turn their head side to side and see everyone in the room. So you want to give them that sense, that feeling of being part of the group. You need to give them a wide angle view of all of the attendees in the room. So what's better about this layout? Anyone?
Everything.
It's a fair answer, yes. Susan.
I see that the participants can not only view the speaker, but they can view the people online, and the speaker can view the people that are in attendance and the people online. And so it's a good interaction.
Absolutely. Yeah, sight lines, lines of sight are really well done in this layout. Deborah.
It looks like our meeting.
Great.
And one of the things that's good about this is that you can pass on the lectern when the next person comes up. You're not crowded
I like
in.
that kind of layout. That's cool.
So you can shake your hands and pass the lectern on to the next person.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Linda.
Sorry, my button doesn't always pop up. I'm not seeing in this how the people online are able to see those in the room. I see they could see, possibly see some of the people, but it looks like that tablet in the middle. It looks like it's a tablet in the middle facing the lectern.
It is.
It's
You're
still
correct.
better than many of the options we've seen. I just see that as still being a challenge.
It's a little less obvious in this picture, but I'm going to go over it. There's actually a second camera here that you may not notice. Is it Gina?
It's Gina.
Gina.
So looking at this, it looks like the word of the day is both taped to the lectern in the front. I see something flapping in the front, and also being presented in the virtual meeting. I can see what you mean by, I can see one view that looks like it's specifically focusing on the lectern, and one that looks like it's the full room.
Yes.
In just the multi-person view on the screen.
Right, and you're correct. The word of the day is being broadcast, screen shared, if you will, to the Zoom attendees as well. Kenneth. Kenneth, anything to add? Okay, well, we'll go on. So, what's better? Well, first of all the attendees have a clear view of the lectern and the speaker, and I'll explain the two camera setup in a moment, so you'll see that. All the attendees have a clear view of the other attendees, both in person and online. Now, some might say, why not have the monitor behind the monitor showing the online attendees behind the speaker, so that the in-person attendees, while watching the speaker, can also see the online attendees? There could be an argument made in favor of that, but really, if someone's at the lectern giving a speech, don't you want your in-person attendees focused on them and not focused on, what somebody's doing in the background with their cat virtually or whatever? So I prefer this layout. I think it's more effective because, as one person noted, it allows the person standing at the lectern to see both the in-person attendees and all of the virtual attendees at the same time. If the in-person attendees need to see the virtual attendees because one of them is speaking or presenting, they just turn and face the monitor on the wall. The word of the day, I don't remember who said it, but yes, it is both in front of the lectern in a little stand that appears to have gotten turned in this picture, and it is shared on a person's laptop or device in the Zoom as well. Timers, indicators. In this instance, the timer is seated closest to us, bottom of the picture. As we look at it, you can see the green sheet there. Because the timer is close to the lectern, both the person speaking can see it, but also the tablet provides the close-up lectern view and will also show the timer's colors when they hold them up. The meeting agenda is both printed for the in-person attendees and it's emailed in advance to all the online attendees. If a guest shows up, it can be emailed to them immediately. And as mentioned, the online attendees do have a full room view that I will show you as well. So let's talk about the video elements of Great Hybrid. Can a single camera provide a clear view of a lectern or speaker and the in-person attendees? If so, the in-person attendance is probably low. What am I saying? What I'm saying is, if I go back to this picture right here, if you wanted to use a single camera to show everything that's going on here, you probably have a very small meeting and not one that's this large. Because a single camera either needs to be close to the speaker at the lectern or it needs to be back farther to encompass the whole room. If it's back farther and it's encompassing the whole room and you still have a good view of the speaker because they're close, then there's only 3 or 4 people in the room. Kent, did you have a question? Kent, I see your hand.
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. I'm just slow on the clicking.
No problem.
We have a hybrid meeting, and we have a long, narrow room. So we have 2 cameras. We have a camera on a tripod that's right in front of the lectern, focused on the speaker, and we have another, just a laptop that sits at the other end of the room, so you can see both the room and just the speaker.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. And I will show an example of that in some slides coming up. So 1 camera or more. Usually you want 2 cameras for exactly the reason that Kent just pointed out, right? That you'll benefit from that. Joyce, question?
No, I just wanted to say that I attended a meeting one time where they had similar setup to what you have there, only the camera that was in the middle of the room would swivel and point to whoever was speaking. And that was a very interesting thing. I'd never seen that before. And of course, it came about because of the Zoom environment that so many people use now. So I just thought it wasn't a cheap thing from what I understand, but it worked pretty nifty.
Yeah, in the corporate environment and in my tech career, I've been in lots and lots of corporate meetings where we had cameras that would follow speakers or readjust to the person that was speaking in the moment, where we had large, 200-person remote attendee meetings and things like that. That equipment is not inexpensive, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for most Toastmasters clubs, but if you've got it, great, use it. It's a wonderful idea. So, usually 2 cameras are going to be needed. One that provides your close-up view of the lectern and the speaker, and the one that provides your full room view. Now, going back to what I showed previously, here is the wide-angle camera providing the full room view. And if I jump all the way back to here, you can see it on a tripod right in front of the monitor to the left in this picture. So, 2 cameras in use. This wide angle camera is sending to Zoom the image we see on the right on the monitor here. That's actually me taking this picture, standing there with my iPhone. And on the left is the view from the, in this case, iPad tablet that is on a tripod closer to the lectern, the close-up speaker view. Here we see both cameras that are being used. In the case of the iPad on the tripod for the speaker and lectern, this could be any mobile device, any type of camera you want to use. It could be a web camera, but I have found that it's just easier to use a phone or an iPad. Part of the reason I choose to use a tablet is that it gives the speaker at the lectern another gallery view of the people who are online, even closer to them than the monitor on the wall. So for those who may have difficulty seeing over that distance or eyesight issues, this is a closer view of the same people that are online, just repeated for their benefit. It also provides them with a view of themselves if they should want to see it. All of this is run from a single computer. And here we see the driving computer, if you will. It provides both the full room video to the monitor as well as the audio via 3 different speakers to Zoom. The separate tablet provides the lectern speaker video to Zoom. And as I said before, this is what you see. So we have the long room view on the right, if you were to join this meeting virtually, and on the left we have the close-up lectern view. In this case, the lectern had already been taken off the table, so it's not there. Josh, questions?
Yeah, is the camera, are the cameras connected wirelessly or with a wire to the laptop?
We'll get into that. The wide room view on the right is connected via wires. It's a USB cable connection to the laptop. The tablet is not connected to the laptop. It's also connected to Zoom. So it has a Wi-Fi connection. It's connected directly to Zoom. It's sending its own signal to Zoom. And that's what results in 2 images instead of a single mixed image where the computer might bring them together. Kent, question?
Yeah, you said the computer is connected to 3 different speakers?
Yep, I'm going to get into that in a moment.
Okay.
All right.
I'm your straight man.
So as I mentioned, we've got the lectern or speaker view on the left here. We've got the full room view on the right. Great for those remote attendees. Now let's get into great hybrid meetings and the audio portion. So we've all had this experience. Will a single microphone do the job? Maybe if you have a small meeting, but probably not. And we all want big meetings, right? If you've got a room with 15 or 20 people in it and you have a single microphone and it's up at the lectern, hopefully it's doing a good job of picking up the speaker. But if anyone else in the room speaks, it's unlikely that it will pick up what they're saying, and that therefore your remote attendees will not hear it. That's bad. So usually you want 2 or more microphones, one near the lectern and one or more among your in-person attendees. And if you're using 2 or more microphones, it's critical to avoid echo. We've all experienced this. You have multiple people on their laptops, they've all joined a Zoom meeting and they're in the same room and they all have their microphones turned on instead of muted. And what happens? Echo, 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 and so on. So you have to have the capability to enable and disable the microphones individually, or, as I'm going to show you here, merge multiple microphones, multiple audio sources to be a single audio stream that you are sending to Zoom. What about wireless mics? They're great. Love them. Lapel mics, other forms, handhelds, it doesn't really matter. Yes, they will likely give you better audio quality for your speaker at the lectern, but they have a high cost. They're more complex to configure and maintain. They don't help a speaker learn to project to the room. They can use that microphone as a crutch, and it will slow the meeting as the microphone has to be moved between speakers, especially if we're talking about lavalier mics or other mics where there's a belt pack and it has to be moved to another person before you can go on. I noticed 1 or 2 of you might be screenshotting or taking photographs of these slides as we go. Just a reminder, you're going to be given a link to this entire deck, so you have access to it forever and you can enjoy it for as long as you would like. So a better option is a good quality stationary microphone near the lectern. Here's an example. Same meeting, same club, 3 microphones. We see them in the top 3 circles in this picture. I'll go over the specifics in a minute, but basically there's a microphone at the far end of these tables where the lectern had been sitting. You can see that the tablet is still there to shoot the speaker at the lectern. There's 2 more on either side, and all of those are connected via USB cables to the laptop in the lower right. Now let's talk about the impact on roles if you're doing great hybrid meetings. Well, the timer has to ensure that indicators are visible. Oh, I'm sorry, Linda, did you have a question?
Yes, a quick question. You said 3 mics, and
yes,
when we were first starting this, we learned about owl microphones. And I was just wondering, are they effective with just one, or is it still better to have more?
Again, it depends on the size of your meeting and the physical space over which people are spread. In this case, in this meeting, often we will have anywhere from 10 to 14 people in person and a half dozen or more online as well. And with that many people in the room, they're spread the length of these tables. And a single owl microphone is, if it's near the lectern at one end of the tables, is unlikely to do a good job picking up speech at the other end if someone needs to say something. Now, we can make the argument nobody should be talking unless they're at the lectern, and that's a fair choice for a club to make. But the reality is that there tends to be a lot of comments from the tables. If you do round robin evaluations, for example, you don't necessarily want every person to walk to the lectern to give a 1-minute eval, so you're going to do it from their table spots and so on. And so having multiple microphones in those cases just really will improve the experience for your virtual participants. Kent, question.
I'll tell you a short story.
Okay.
My club meets at the City of Kent Council Center, one of the big conference rooms, and we have a hybrid meeting. I attended a Zoom meeting for the evening club that meets in the same room. Their audio was a disaster because they tried to do it with a microphone on the laptop. We use a Jabra, which we put in the middle of the room. It filters out noise it is picked up by the lectern, by anybody in the room, the equal voice. Unfortunately, it'll pick up people whispering to each other too, so that's a minor problem. But that Jabra is night and day difference. It costs about $120. I'm going to put it in the chat, but that makes all the difference in the world to have a good tabletop speaker system. That, to me, that's a showstopper if you can't hear the speakers and see them.
Yeah, for sure. And just I share this information later in the deck, but the 3 microphones that I've circled here are all Jabra brand microphones,
Yeah.
in fact.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue onward. So let's talk about roles. The timer has to ensure that the indicators they're giving for time, red, green, yellow, are visible to all the attendees. So if they are in person, sit somewhere where the full room view camera can see them. So sit close to it so you'll appear large in that view when you hold up your colors, or sit close to the lectern and the speaker so that the tablet camera will pick you up and everyone online can see it as well. If your timer is online and not in person, use the Toastmasters Zoom backgrounds. I hope everyone is aware of these, but there are colored backgrounds available with the Toastmaster logo. You can download them off the website that can be used by timers to change their background color, and that way all of your remote attendees see it very obviously in their view, and your in-person attendee, provided you have a good sized monitor or if they're looking at the tablet screen, will also be able to see this brightly colored background behind one of the participants. The grammarian has to ensure that the word of the day is visible to everyone, not just the in-person attendees. So for in-person, put your printed sheet in front of the lectern, the speaker. For online, create a Zoom background that shows the word of the day and enable it as a background. So this is not sharing your screen. This is creating a background, installing it to Zoom as a background, and then actually setting your background to that. Now, really smart folks actually join the Zoom twice. So if I am, for example, the grammarian this week, I'm going to join the Zoom from 2 devices. I'm going to join from my laptop so that I have video and I can watch everything going on and I can speak to everybody. I'm also going to join from my phone. And my phone is not going to do anything but have that word of the day background. And I won't aim the camera at anything. And so what's going to happen is it will show the word of the day, not unlike what you're seeing right now with my head in front of the slides, right? So that way the word of the day is essentially a person, if you will, in that Zoom experience. And it's present for everyone who's remote to see. Also, if you have a big monitor on the wall, for example, showing the Zoom attendees, that may be sufficient for your in-person folks as well. It may not be critical to have a printed copy in front of the lectern if everyone can see the monitor. The Toastmaster has to ensure that the meeting agenda is visible to everyone, so you can upload it to Zoom chat at the start of the meeting. You can share it online, obviously, via Zoom, email it. You can share it as a background. Again, you can make export the agenda. If you made it in Word or in some other tool, you can export it as a JPEG file and then actually make it a background that can be viewed. You need a new role, the person who's going to operate the laptop that makes these things happen. Oh, I see some hands up now. Let me pause for a minute. Deborah, what can I answer for you?
I was just wondering, why couldn't you just put the word of the day in the chat?
You can, but the chat has a tendency to scroll if people are active in the chat. And anyone who joins the meeting after you've put it in the chat does not see chat history. That's a limitation of Zoom, that new joiners do not see past chat history. So as the grammarian, you would need to keep reposting the word of the day every time a new person joins the meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. All right, so there's a new role that we need. Somebody has to be the laptop operator. Hopefully you have someone in your club who's more technical, has some experience and understanding, can go into the appendix of this slide deck, which I won't go over today, and actually read the intimate details of how to configure all of these things and which things you might want to buy and how to set up the software and all the rest. But that person is going to set up and operate the laptop, the monitor, if you have one, cameras, and the microphones. It could be your sergeant at arms, but it could be another person as well. They need to be an in-person attendee. This role can't be filled by someone who's virtual. And you probably need a new role, and that's your chat and participant monitor. Usually this can be the person operating the laptop, but it also can be another attendee. Why is that? Well, most of us, when we put the Zoom up on the big monitor in the room for the in-person attendees to see your virtual participants, we do not also show the chat on the monitor or the participants list on the monitor. And what happens? You're 10 minutes into a meeting, a guest has joined, no one knows it. I should say a guest has joined virtually. No one knows it because no one's looking at the participant list. Then another guest joins later, and you never talk to them because you don't actually know that they're there. If they're not sharing video, you may not even see them on screen if you have non-video participant boxes turned off. So it's important that someone, and again, it can be the same person operating the laptop, is monitoring the chat and monitoring the participant list for changes over time. All right, audience engagement. How do we make a great hybrid meeting with better audience engagement? Well, fundamentally, we have to treat in-person and online attendees as a single audience. Whether you're the speaker at the lectern or any other role in the meeting, you want to be speaking to a group of people, not online people separate from in-person people. When we do things like evaluations and polls, in-person written evaluations can be collected by the Toastmaster, then photographed using a phone and emailed to the online speakers. One of the biggest questions we get when doing hybrid meetings is if a person is online and they're giving a 5 or 7 minute speech, doesn't matter the length, but the point is if they're giving a speech, how do they get evaluations if we don't deliver those verbally in the moment? And the answer is we do written evaluations at my club, and then we photograph them and email them to that person to read. Online attendees who want to evaluate a person who's speaking in person can share those evaluations via the Zoom chat, and then your laptop operator, your chat monitor person can screenshot them and email them to the in-person speaker, or just share it verbally. There's a variety of actions you can take in that case. If you're needing to do polls, do we want to do this thing? Do we want to do that thing? How many people believe this or believe that? Whatever. If you don't need anonymity, you can do it using hand raises because we can see raised hands of online participants. If you need it to be anonymous, there's a variety of tools, online tools that everyone can use. When sharing slides, speakers often default to the full screen view. So if we imagine the room that we've seen pictures of where my club meets, we've got that long table set up, the lectern at one end, the monitor at the other end of the room, and somebody says, well, I'm giving a presentation and there are slides. So they're going to want to hook up their laptop to that monitor. Well, that's a problem because now the monitor's not showing all the Zoom attendees to the in-person attendees. So a better answer is for them to use their own laptop, join the Zoom, share from their laptop. That's great because it means that the online attendees are also seeing what's being shared. And then on the monitor, the person who is your laptop controller just spotlights or pins the shared slides such that they fill the whole screen. So your in-person attendees will see the slides big on the screen. Your online attendees will see the slides, which they can also pin in their Zoom view and the gallery view, and they can make that large, and it's a win for everybody. Also, consider a windowed view of slides. This is an interesting thing. If you haven't used it, it works like this. When you get into PowerPoint or Google Slides, you can specify that I want to set up my slideshow to present in a window, not full screen. And when I present it in a window, that allows me to move that window. So if we imagine the monitor at the end of the room normally has all the Zoom gallery blown up to fill the whole screen, but it doesn't have to. Instead, it could have Zoom filling half the screen and slides filling half the screen. And now your in-person attendees can see both your online participants and the slides at the same time. Now that does mean that the slides have to be shared from the laptop that is controlling everything, but that's pretty easy to do too. I would consider this a bit more of an advanced topic for those of you who really want to get into it and have a monumentally good in-person slide experience. All right, additional resources. Back during the pandemic, Toastmasters actually published a series of articles that might be of interest to you, and they're all linked from inside this slide deck, so you can go take a look. Much of what I've covered today is covered in older forms, lesser information, etc., in those decks. Deborah, did you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay. Just saw your hand up.
Sorry.
All right. Well, apart from diving into the specifics of technology, which I am very happy to do because we have plenty of time left, what are the questions that I can answer for people? Yes, Kent.
One of the things we struggle with is, let's say I happen to eat table topics. Right now, I'm in an off-grid cabin in North Idaho, out in the Tules. I can't see the room where I meet when I'm in person. So I'm doing table topics, but I don't know who's in the room because I can't see everybody. That laptop at the end of the table doesn't show everybody in the room. Right. So I often have to ask, and then just like when people come in late, I have to ask again. Do you have any magic brushes to?
The problem with using a laptop camera is that their field of view is not very wide. So you have to physically move the laptop a long way away from the subjects that you want to be able to see. And if what your club is doing right now, maybe the laptop's back as far as it can go and you're still not able to see everybody in the room, my best suggestion will either be add a web camera. You can get an inexpensive web camera for $30 or $40 that you can plug in using a USB cable to that laptop. And there are some that will sit right on top of the laptop screen. You don't even necessarily need a tripod. But if you're using a web camera, it will have a much wider field of vision. In the appendix of this slide deck, I do list the web camera that we use for our long view. And so that would be one option. The other, if you don't want to mess with a web camera, is get two laptops and set them both back there with a slightly overlapping view. So, you know, the left laptop and the right laptop, so you can see the entirety of the room and everyone who's in it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Other questions that I can answer?
We have a couple comments, not so much questions on the chat, but one person, Jeffrey, was talking about, you already mentioned this, the laptop operator can also be the sergeant at arms. Another thing Jeffrey mentioned is another way to handle evaluations is to fill out the PDF of the evaluation form and email it that way instead of doing the paper version of it.
Yep, absolutely.
And let's see, another person, Michelle, mentioned the laptop operator could message an attendees list to the Table Topics Master Online as an option there.
Yeah, even just screenshot it and email it.
And yep, Ty, I'll go ahead and drop those links again, just a moment. Speakers can send evaluation forms to their evaluations through Pathways, and the evaluator sends back completed form. For those of you using FreeToast Host, you know, if someone who signs up to be a speaker and puts in their speaker what they're talking about, their pathway information, that also includes a link to the PDF file that Jeff was talking about of the actual evaluation form for that speech. If you didn't know, that was one really cool thing about Free toast toast. Um, one other thing is Gina's talking about they ran into today is just knowing the names of attendees in the room. How do you keep that straight as a virtual attendee? Really big name tags. It's what her really big name tags is she asking.
That's a great question. Big name tags is an option. Like take some card stock that you fold in half and have people write their names on the card stock. So essentially big name tents. Over time, one would hope that you know most of the names of the attendees in the room, so you recognize their faces. But if someone's a newer member to a club, they might not know most of those people. If it's a guest, you're not going to know their name. So that can be tough. I suppose that's one advantage for viewing the people who are online is that if they're showing their name, then you have access to that all the time while their video is up.
The person suggests name tents in front of their names is a good thing too.
Yeah.
Can I ask a practical question?
Sure, please go ahead.
Sorry, I still can't figure out the hand thing.
That's okay.
So when you're a timer online,
Mm-hmm.
what is the trick I've seen people do it just so neat where they have like the green. And so instead of my wall back here, it would be green.
Correct.
And then it would be yellow and then red. Is there like an app or something that I could get for when I'm the timer?
You don't need an app. You just need the Zoom backgrounds, which you can then flip through. So let me walk you through this. If you click on to the right of your video camera icon, so I'm at the bottom of the Zoom window where all the controls are.
Okay.
And you see the camera icon. To the right of it is an arrow. If you click on that, you should see a menu item that says something to the effect of adjust background and effects. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, choose that. That's going to open a new window, and you will see among the choices in that window virtual backgrounds. And there's probably a few pre-built virtual backgrounds that came with Zoom for you. And you can choose one of those and it will change your background, what people see behind you. When you use a virtual background, Zoom automatically essentially filters out what is behind you by using the focal point of your camera to identify what are you and what's in the background. Now that can lead to some weirdness when you move your hand closer or farther from the camera. Sometimes it'll appear or disappear, but it works pretty well. Josh, for example, is doing it right now. He's using a virtual background that is the District 2 Toastmasters logo. You can add your own virtual backgrounds. There's probably a little plus button there to click to add images. What you want to do is add the existing Toastmasters colored backgrounds for timers. And there's 3 of them. Well, there's more than 3. There's versions of them, but basically there's red, yellow, green, and you add those. Then when you are the timer, you use this same feature to change your background as the clock is winding up. So on a 5 to 7 minute speech, you're going to click on the background for green at 5 minutes. And then you're going to click on the background for yellow at 6. You're going to click on the background for red. And you can just leave this window, the background and effects window, open the entire time. You can see Bob King is doing it right now in the background. He's flipping between the colors.
Oh, that is so simple. I thought it was more complicated.
No, not it. It sounds complicated, but it's not.
Okay,
and
fantastic.
it's super handy. Oh yeah, Kent has
wow.
uploaded
Okay. I will do that.
No, there were. Oh yeah, no, I have seen those. There's the District 2 versions of the colored backgrounds. Quite nice. Thank you for that, Kent.
Yeah.
All right. Other questions? Kenneth, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I live at the end of the road.
Okay.
I'm in Juneau, Alaska, and our technology capacity in terms of throughput on Zoom is limited. Even with local audiences, we oftentimes get to the frozen face and the voice doesn't catch up. It presents some interesting challenges in trying to do. We are operating hybrid and it's working fairly well, but most of our hybrid success comes when people who are in town that are unable to make the meeting in person.
Sure.
When we start adding distance, being 1,000 miles north of Seattle, it falls apart pretty fast. Is there any techniques we can use to ameliorate that problem?
Well, the biggest thing, so what you're speaking about is what in the tech industry we would call bandwidth. Basically, the bigger your pipe between the internet and your house, the more data can come to and from your house. And when you live way out in the wilderness, the pipes tend to be very small. We might all be old enough to remember the days of dial-up. Those were very, very, very small pipes. With modern high-speed internet, the pipes are better, of course, but basically what we're talking about, as Ted Stevens once says, is it's a series of tubes, and we're trying to get the biggest tube we can find. Now, since you can't make your tube any bigger, your next best option is to reduce the amount of data that's being sent through the pipe so that you get the data you care about most. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to eliminate video wherever possible so that you're just hearing, you're not necessarily seeing. Now, that doesn't mean you eliminate video from everybody. It just means, for example, that you ask all of your online participants to turn off their cameras when they are not speaking, because that means they are not sending video to you through Zoom. So you're receiving less video signal, making more space for the audio signal, or for the one person who is speaking, or for the one camera that you might be watching that is in the physical meeting space, right? So have all of your online participants turn off their cameras when they are not actively speaking, and that will reduce the flow to you, basically. Apart from that, you should turn off your own camera because that's sending data up, which in and of itself doesn't hurt your download speed per se, but there's handshaking and checksumming and things that happen in the background that will eat up a little bit. So turn off your own video unless you are, again, speaking to the group for, for something. What else can you do? There's not a whole lot more that you can do other than really just asking the other online participants to shut off video when they're not speaking.
Thank you.
I should
we
mention
do that.
Yeah,
but it doesn't always help. You've frozen up a couple times today.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry to hear that. Zoom is intelligent in the sense that it's supposed to downgrade what you're getting on your end if it doesn't detect that you have enough speed, that your pipe is too small and so on. But even so, there's only so much that it can do in trying to, we call it downsample, trying to make the video, more grainy but less data sent and so on. So again, just trying to eliminate sources of video predominantly will be the best thing that can help you in this case. Either that or, look for a higher speed internet connection like, I don't know, Starlink or other options maybe for satellite data. Okay, other questions that I can answer. Karen, is your hand up?
It is. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. So a couple comments and a question.
Sure.
One of the things we do for evaluations, so we have everyone in our club evaluate people, as the speakers, as well as the evaluator. And when we were all online, it was really easy. You just did it by direct chat. And when we were all in person, we all wrote it out. So now we have two different ways of doing it. So the way that I suggest is the people online, if they're members, I have them email the person their ideas. And for the people who are guests, I have them email the club email, and then we pass it on to them. So that's the one way that we do that. Another thing that is really helpful in so I have, both my clubs are hybrid. One of the clubs are wonderful SAA, who is here today, before she introduces the president or the presiding officer, she explains the setup. So the people online and the people in the room know where the cameras are and has people wave to the people online and that sort of thing. And it's really nice because it makes people feel welcome. So
Absolutely.
the last thing I wanted to say is you talked about you glazed over this, and this is one of the problems we have. Voting. We used to vote for best speaker and best table topics and all that. And it'd be great if there was a single way that everyone in the room and online could vote, like through their phone or something like that. Do you know of tools that will do that?
Sure. There's a variety of polling tools available via websites for use when, let's say, you're a speaker in front of a large audience of 800 people and you want to ask them all a question, multiple choice or whatever. So there are tools available to do those sorts of things. Some of them are free or very low cost. The difficulty, of course, is that it requires that everyone have access to a device in that moment when you want to get the answers. So for the people who are online, piece of cake, they're generally already on their laptop or some other device that would allow them to go to a website and fill out a poll and log their answer. But for the people in the room, if they don't have a laptop in front of them, it might mean pulling out their phone, having to get into the browser, having to type in, a website address, then go through the whole process. And depending on the technical capabilities of your members, could be a slow process. One way to speed it up would be to use a QR code instead to get to the poll. The difficulty there, of course, is you usually have to know what question you're going to ask in advance so that you can have that QR code generated. So for purposes like best table topic of the day, you don't know who's going to be speaking, so it's tough to pre-create that poll. If you're asking a question that doesn't necessarily need an anonymous response or a hidden response, then you can. It's a little clunky, but you can always do hand raising. If three people, I'll make this up. If three people spoke on table topics, you can do the old okay, who votes for this guy? Who votes for this guy? Who votes for this guy? Right? You hold your hand over their heads, and everybody claps, and the louder the claps, that person won. Right? There are some techniques you can use that will work both in person and hybrid without the need to take advantage of features of Zoom or another tool. I haven't used a lot of the online polling tools myself, so I don't have a particular favorite, but there's a number of them out there that are easy to use if you want to go that route. Ty, question? Ty, did you have a question?
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I missed the part where you spoke about the Jamba microphones. I wanted to find out what the purpose, and then if you can drop the kind you use in the chat. I'm sorry.
No worries. So let me just jump ahead in the slide deck. I won't go into this in great detail right now, but I'll just share with all of you, because you have access to the slide deck, that there's a detailed appendix here where I go over all of the equipment with links to get it, all the software, etc. Here's the Jabra microphones that I use that you saw in the pictures, and the extension cables for USB and all the rest. So I even go into software configuration, what you need to do on the computer, that's the laptop that is running everything, sound routing, how to use the software to set that up to take 3 microphones and jam them together into one Zoom, and so on. So all of that detail is in the appendix of this deck, to which you have access, including clickable links to Amazon pages where these things are available for purchase if you want the exact same Jabra microphones. Kent, questions?
Yes, well, I'm going to answer Ty's. I put a link in for the speakerphone that we use. So it's both a speaker and a microphone that attaches to the controlling laptop. The way we do voting is also hybrid. If the table topics person is remote, then everybody send their vote via chat, and somebody in the room is a designated collector. We also have paper ballots and paper for evaluations for the people that come to the meeting. So they just pass all the votes to one person, and that person sends it to the table topics master, and that's how it happens.
Great.
And it works well.
All right. Thank you, Kent. Other questions I can answer right now? Okay.
I do have one.
There's more.
Okay.
Yes, go
And
ahead.
this is a simple one. So I just downloaded to Google Slides. I use PowerPoint. So I'm assuming that when I get off of this computer, I can open up my Google account and somewhere I'm going to learn that those slides are there, correct?
Yeah, so when you click the link that I shared, that Josh shared to the slide deck, that's a direct link to the slide deck. You can download a copy locally if you want. You'll be able to open it in PowerPoint, not a problem. And I actually created the deck in PowerPoint, but I uploaded it to Google Drive, which is the link that you received. And when you upload PowerPoint slides to Google, they will sometimes convert them to Google Slides files as well. So there's a duplicate copy as a Google Slides file. But if you download the file, it should come down as a PowerPoint file that you can open with PowerPoint.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Michael, my old friend.
Chris, how are you? Good to see you again. Josh,
You too,
everybody. Laura, Grove, everybody. We've been kindly gifted with the use of an owl camera in our room, which is very nice. The 365-degree view at the very top is really hard to see. So we've had to hang on, let me turn off let me do what I should have done in the first place, turn off blur. And so we've been using these cards, the cards, and it's still not turning off. Anyway, the owl cam is motion sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
But when you hold up the card like this, the owl cam
You're sharing
stops
video
showing
with us
you.
anymore, but
You disappear, and you
oh, there you are. Okay.
and then you no longer have the advantage of being able to show the cards, and you rarely come back when you need to show the yellow or the red. So
right.
do you have any other recommendations? Because as you said, we don't like to have another laptop open on in our online or in our in-person meetings.
Well, so for those who may not quite have followed Michael's question, they have a camera that essentially follows the speaker or follows motion. And what can happen is a person could be standing at the lectern and giving a speech, and then the timer holds up a colored card, and the camera whips around to focus on the colored card and never comes back to the speaker or doesn't come back right away. And now the online attendees are no longer seeing the speaker while they continue to speak. And you don't really want the camera to turn and look necessarily at the timer anyway. So a couple of options. One, if you have control over the OWL camera, you can disable the auto follow feature while there's a speaker at the lectern and have it just focus there and not turn. That's one option. Another option would be I understand you don't necessarily want to have another laptop or device that joins the Zoom, but what you could do is, I was going to say a laptop, but you could do it with a phone. It doesn't really matter. The point is have the timer join the Zoom with maybe their mobile phone and just leave it lying on the table until they're ready to show a color. And then just sort of, pick it up a few inches. I'll do it like this. Pick it up a few inches off the table, show the card color that's lying on the table, and just hold it there for, a minute until they need to change colors, then change to the next color, swipe that one in, change to the next. And that way your online attendees are seeing the color. That's not great for your in-person speaker, though, because they're no longer holding it up. And so I think fundamentally you have to look for a way to disable that auto follow feature of the camera while you have a speaker on stage, so to speak.
I do have one more question.
Sure.
Specifically to the situation in the outback in Alaska or wherever your outback happens to be. As you start to add to attach these extra devices, the camera in the case that you were just talking about, or a second computer, or multiple, an iPad and a camera, that starts to eat into the bandwidth that those folks on the narrow pipe are getting as well.
Not exactly. So think about it like this. If I'm in a remote location and I connect to a Zoom meeting, I'm getting a single signal from Zoom. The complexity of that single, the size, if you will, of that single can be determined by what is being shown on my screen. What are all of the things that I'm receiving from Zoom? So if I'm receiving, if I have a gallery view with 50 people in it, all of whom have their video cameras on, that's a lot of video information all being sent by Zoom to me. And so I'm receiving a lot of information. But if there's 50 people in the meeting and none of them have their cameras turned on, that's essentially almost no video information being sent to me by Zoom. So what we want to do is reduce the amount of video information going to your remote attendees by turning off unnecessary cameras. Using a more sophisticated camera, or the difference between, say, 1 and 2 cameras, is not going to be significant. It's more a question of, do you have 10 or 15 or 20 people all with cameras on their laptops who could leave them turned off because they're not speaking in the moment? That's going to make a meaningful difference for that person who is in a remote place. All right. Any other questions I can answer?
Yeah, I have just a comment about, Kent talked about having a device that's the speaker as well as the microphone. And we, in our hybrid meetings, we use an air hug, which is just a handheld thing. And my experience has been that if you just make it a mic and you use the speaker, if you are lucky enough to have a big monitor, use the monitor's speakers and just use the air hug for a mic. It works much better. When it tries to do both things, it doesn't work as well. And the audio is probably as someone mentioned earlier, it's so important in a meeting. The view is important, but the audio is the most important thing. So yeah, that's just one tip, that if you have a device that is both, if you can use a different speaker, use a different speaker and use one device just for the mic. But anyway, and it works really well. And we move it around. We just take it to people. We only have one mic. I'm thinking about, now that you mentioned 2 mics, so that's pretty interesting. My other comment is, I've been a speaker at a hybrid meeting online when they've had an OWL camera. It's a little disconcerting, and it may be just been their setup, but it moves around so much, I never could see the people really well. And it may be just because the way they positioned it. But so yeah, be careful about where you position your OWL camera if you're lucky enough to have one. I mean, I think it's a really cool technology, but it is problematic, I think, when you're online and the camera's going all over the place and you're trying to see the speaker and they're way far away. That's just a couple comments. Thanks.
Right. All right, great. Any other questions that I can answer? Kay, looks like you're raising your hand.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I have 3 cameras. Two cameras are on mute, so we just use the square, and one camera has the mic.
Yep.
It happens to be at our library, so the big screen is the library camera, and the mic for that is an in-room mic that comes down from the ceiling.
Okay.
What I would like to do is I want to record the speaker when that speaker speaks. The library camera only shoots the back of their head because of the way that it's set up. So I have other cameras that I have a frontal shot at them, but I can't get that shot recorded, and I think it's because it doesn't have audio. Is that is that true? Is that how the Zoom works?
No, Zoom, if you turn on recording in Zoom, it'll record whatever's on the screen. So regardless of which cameras are functioning, which audio sources are functioning, everything gets recorded as the same thing that an online participant would see is what's recorded to the Zoom recording. So So you have a primary camera that's facing the back of the speaker's head, which is the camera that you have enabled for audio.
Yes.
And why are you choosing to use that camera's audio instead of one of the others?
Because it's a good mic.
Okay, good answer. Good answer.
My
That's
other
fair.
my other two cameras are laptops.
I got
So,
you. Okay.
Yeah, so that's why.
And all three of these cameras are connected to Zoom, obviously. Are they connected via three different devices? Do you have three different laptops?
Yes, I have the big screen camera, library camera, and two laptops camera that connect to Zoom separately.
Okay, so three laptops, three cameras, and effectively three microphones, although two of them are the onboard mics on the laptops themselves. And what you want is not a recording of the video of the back of the head of the speaker. You want one of the other two laptops that are giving you a front view.
Yes.
And you just want good audio. You don't care where it comes from.
Correct.
So what you need to do is, again, because Zoom will record whatever is sent, what I would recommend, well, but it also makes an assumption about speaker. So there's a couple ideas. The first one, and you'd have to try this to see if it works.
Okay.
The first one is leave your configuration as it is. On the two laptops where you are muted, instead of muting the audio, actually click on the three dots along the control bar at the bottom and choose disconnect from audio. That's a better choice than muting. Muting risks the possibility of unmuting, and now you get echo and other problems. If you have a device that you just don't want to send any audio to Zoom, actually disconnect from the audio. And that way it can't send audio. It can still send video, but it can't send audio. Now, by default, Zoom is in what we call speaker view, meaning that the camera that's behind the speaker's head is the default view that will pop up when somebody speaks, because that same microphone is attached to that laptop.
Yeah.
What you can do, though, is you can pin a different view.
Okay.
And I'm just thinking about which of your is the speaker's laptop, the library laptop, is that the host like which one of the laptops has host capability or host permission?
So there's a laptop in the middle of the room where I sit at a table.
Okay.
And it's connected to a webcam.
Okay.
So I have my computer and then the webcam.
Right.
And that's the one that I would disconnect from audio.
Right.
That's the one that I want to that I would want to pin, because that gives me a full speaker view.
Right. But when you're logged into that laptop on Zoom, do you have host privileges? Are you?
Oh, yes, I do. It's the host.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So if you enable recording from that host account, that host laptop, then it should record what you are seeing.
It doesn't.
So,
I know.
What I mean by that is, if you pin your view,
okay,
your camera view from that laptop, now you're seeing the face of the speaker, but you should still be hearing the audio from the overhead mic. Now, you'll have to experiment with this to make sure, because what could happen is Zoom could say, oh, I'm recording your pinned video, therefore I'm going to record the audio associated with it, which is for a microphone that you've turned off because you've disconnected from audio, right? So it could fail.
Okay.
If it doesn't work, then the other suggestion I would have is doesn't have to be expensive, get a USB microphone with a long cable or an extension cable that you can plug into your host laptop, the one that you're sitting at.
Yeah.
Put that microphone near the speaker and bring it into your computer so that when you do a recording, it's your camera and essentially your audio, your Zoom audio, that are being recorded.
But then I would need to either turn off or disconnect the room mic.
Maybe.
Okay, so I'll experiment.
Yeah, you'll have to do some experimentation. Let me think. Is there a different way to go about this? I mean, there are other recording tools that you could use, screen recorder tools outside of Zoom that might be able to achieve what you're hoping to do. Reach out to me directly. Let's talk about this more. Hit me up after the meeting and let's talk about this further, and maybe we can find a solution for you.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. Okay, other questions, comments, things we can address? It looks like we got about 5 minutes left. I don't think I'm seeing any other hands, so maybe we're done.
We're done. Well, Chris, thank you so much for being here and for I mean, this is some great information.